This weekend, the GT4 European Series is at the Nurburgring. The sun is shining, and for what is a very early morning race, the teams are heading out on track for their second 1 hour race of the weekend. Yesterday's was full of drama, and only late last night was the result finally decided upon, with a number of investigations and penalties to be factored in. But it was a good race, and it sets us up nicely for more of the same this morning as the cars make their way round to the grid. We have a good mix of brands being represented: Toyota, BMW, Mercedes, Porsche, Chevrolet and McLaren, all out on track. And yesterday's race, in the end, was not quite so Porsche dominated as one might have expected to begin with, because although it was the green and grey Cayman that you've just seen going through the shot of Ivan Giacomo that dominated the first stint of the race, it had a 5-second penalty to serve in its pit stop for a false start. And there were also post-race investigations, and the net result was that the Mercedes, number 15 of Xavier Averas and Luc Ibanez, came through to take the race win. It hadn't really featured in the first stint. It had been on the coattails of the leaders in third place, but a really good pit stop and penalties for others and good pace in the second stint gave Luc Ibanez the race win. Today that car will start third on the grid. They're going through the yellow Mercedes of Bob Herber, and to start further back on the grid, going out of shot, was the Mercedes that's going to be driven by Johan van Roem. So the field wriggling its way around to the grid. Johan van Roem sharing number 32 with Jean-Luc Behetz. The car from SRT, the Sellerslach racing team, Patrick Sellerslach's squad that ran, of course, with Chevrolet Corvettes in the FIA GT1 World Championship going back quite a few years, and it's good to have him back within the SRO family. Gemma Scott will patrol the pits and she'll be on the grid shortly. This is David Addison trackside, and the cars work their way now up through the chicane, ready to slot into position on the grid. The grid is based not on yesterday's race, but on the time set in the second qualifying session. This is what happened yesterday. Ivan Giacomo's green Porsche rather confusing the start by going and slowing and causing everyone to scatter around him. He hung on to the race lead, but the real star of the start was Stefan Lemre in the white Toyota going up on the inside line for second place. He was sixth on the grid, made an absolute rocket ship start, put himself ahead of Xavier Lloveras, and there was drama as Wim Spinoy spun his Mercedes. Halfway around the first lap, Jan Kasperlik tapped into a spin, and there, off in avoidance, Jörg Wiebahn in the similar Cayman. He got back on the road, but had a punctured tyre, pitted and lost a lap. Verschouten was under attack in the BMW with the traffic all stacked up behind him, and he also nearly came to grief down at turn 1 as Jan Kasperlik looked for a way past. There was Theo Nue also going nicely there, number 27 on the inside in the Aston Martin, wriggling away by, but Antoine Potty rather dispensed with Verschouten going through the chicane. Antoine Potty later given a time penalty for that incident. It was a 15-second penalty, but we had a safety car period as Dario Cerati was off into the gravel. That dropped the 66 Supra in the end down into 9th place. On the restart, some had pitted, some hadn't, and it was Theo Nue getting it all wrong and going out wide. The Dorint-backed Porsche wide in front of its own hotel. Valentin Asclot ready to take over from Theo Nue, who made a bit of a haulix of getting out of the car. Through all the pit stop fun and games, this Mercedes took over the advantage as Ivan Giacomo gave way to Joel Camathius, but that car had an extra 5 seconds to serve as a penalty for a false start. And you can see as it came back into the race in Camathius' hands, it fell a long way down the order. Ibrahim Okiai was off the road in the Boroshan Automotive Motorsport BMW. Camathias then got it wrong out of the chicane, lost a further 2 places, never able to replicate the pace of Giacomo in 718 Cayman. Number 27 started the last lap with a flat tyre, and it didn't take the checkered flag, the car being classified in the end in 17th position, as through for the race win came Xavier Lloveras and Luc Ibanez from Stefan Lemre and Gael Castelli, with Alexis Sijov and Phil Durr in the McLaren, first time out this year, taking third place. That was yesterday. There is the grid for today as the cars now make their way round to it. The Audi leading cars and course cars and safety cars get themselves into position, and the countdown underway. So there is Bastien Buus, the Danish driver, on pole position. His first year of car racing, benefiting from, if you like, a generous benefactor in co-driver Jan Kasperlik, picking up the tab for having the teenager as his gun for hire in this car, and Bastien Buus doing a really impressive job in the qualifying session to go to pole position. Valentin Asclot for AGS Events, driving in the GT3 6 hours as well that we have here at the Nurburgring this weekend. and looking good in his stint yesterday until the tyre went down right at the very end. They did lose a little bit of time in the pits, but hopefully today will go a lot better for them. Yesterday's winners, there it is, the NM Racing Team Mercedes. Luc Ibanez will start before handing over to Xavier Lloveras, and alongside will be a car that's had 2 race wins as well. This has had 2. Another car that's had 2 wins will be the BMW number 111 to line up alongside. There it is, Bas Schouten and Gabriele Piana's car that had 2 victories at the start of the year at Imola. Theo Nouet and Valentin Asclot have had 1 win, so we've had a spread of 3 different winning combinations across 5 rounds thus far. The silver legend on the back of the BMW proves it's in the Silver Cup. There is also Pro-Am and Am, and the pole position drivers benefit from a Satina watch for their pole position prize. So Bastien Bous, after his efforts yesterday morning, has already got something nice to adorn his wrist. There is the second Allied Racing Porsche. Nikolai Müller-Madsen, another Danish driver, will go first. Silver Cup champion 2 years ago when he had a Phoenix Audi. Now driving with Jan Kasperlik, and it's going to be interesting to see how Müller-Madsen gets on in this race, hopefully without dramas on the opening lap as his co-driver had yesterday. Let's go to the grid. Theo Nouet is on the front row, and he is ready to talk to Gemma Scott.
So yesterday was a difficult day with punctures. Today, starting on the front row of the grid, hoping for a much better result.
Yeah, for sure. Yesterday was a difficult day. Today, the goal is to win, honestly, to stay in the championships. I know he will do a good job.
Yesterday's start as well was slightly messy with some false starts in there as well. That needs to be slightly better controlled today, of course.
Yeah, Nurburgring is always difficult in the first corner. I don't know, we will see today what he will do, but I hope a better result than yesterday.
Thank you very much, Theo. Have a good race.
Thank you, bye.
Theo Nouet then heads off the grid. He will do the second stint today. He was in the car for the opening stint yesterday. You do 1 qualifying session each and you start the race for which you have qualified under the regulations. There's his car, Valentin Asclot at the wheel of it, number 69, starting 6th on the grid. That's Phil Durr of Durr Motorsport, and he shares the car with Alexei Sizhov, and they made a really good combination yesterday. The car worked his way up the order, and late race, what with penalties and punctures and good overtakes, Phil Durr got the car up into 3rd position, and it was a surprise result, in fairness, but it was a good result, and let's see how that car gets on today. There is Nikolai Müller-Madsen again, number 21. As I say, that car had a puncture on the opening lap of the race yesterday when Jan Kasperlik, Jörg Wiebahn, forgive me, was behind the wheel of it, got forced out wide over the curb. But Müller-Madsen, we know, is a very, very fast driver indeed. There is 66, which lines up 2 places further back on the grid. So you've got Timothée Bure starting 8th in the car that he shares with the forceful Antoine Potty. So 8th on the grid is the Toyota, and there, lining up 7th on the grid, is the Chevrolet Camaro of Duncan Houseman, the V8 Racing entry, Duncan Houseman and his co-driver Jorge Cabezas. Right, engines fire up. There is 1 minute to go to the start of the formation lap. Grid now cleared. Everybody being ushered off the grid, and then we will be set to go racing. There is, of course, a mandatory pit window in this race between 25 and 35 minutes. A pit stop is 92 seconds, pit in to pit out, unless you're Bob Herber and you're doing the race on your own, and as a kind of penalty for doing that, you get an extra 10 seconds in that pit stop. So it's 92 for everybody, which is the best part of a lap, but an extra 10 for Bob Herber as the penalty for not having a co-driver. So the cars will be released shortly. They'll do 1 lap to get the warmth into the Pirelli tyres. It's approaching 8:50 local time for the wider weight club of the GT4 European Series. And the cars accelerate now away from the start line, the Nurburgring, one of the many circuits where you have the start and finish lines in different places. Finish lines always have to be in front of the timekeepers for the purposes of timing beams and photo finish equipment, hence the reference to a timing line, but the start line way down the pit straight. Let's look at the grid then. Bastien Bous for Porsche, Valentin Asclot, Aston Martin are on the front row of the grid. Luc Ibanez starts 3rd, yesterday's winning driver in the Mercedes. Gabriele Piana, circuit specialist, 4th in the RM Vision BMW. Nikolai Müller-Madsen goes from 5th for Allied Racing with the next to the Porsches, and the McLaren of Phil Durr lines up alongside ahead of Duncan Heisman's Chevrolet and Timothy Bure in the quicker of the two Toyotas. 9th, Gilles Vannelet, the AM leader in his Aston, and Gael Castelli in the second of the CMR Toyotas next up. Bob Herber's SRT Mercedes starts 11th. Timon Nabours for V8 Racing, sharing with Jotro Pange. He is 12th ahead of Joel Mathias, and Kenneth Heyer, Hans Heyer's son, making a welcome GT4 outing. A long way back though, 14th ahead of Koen Bogart's BMW, and Jagish Gedich in a similar M4 run by the Borushan Automotive Motorsport team. Johan Vannerum starts 17th, Christian de Conte 18th for Auto Orlando Sport. Porsche came in alongside Mercedes once more. BMW and Porsche on the back row, with newcomer Hassan Tansu lining up alongside the Porsche of Dario Barrichelli. That then is how they line up. Cars making their way down now through the right of turn 8. The sun shining, the track cold, but it is dry at least. Thankfully no overnight rain, and whisper it for the Nurburgring, there's hardly a cloud in the sky at the moment, but that could all change very quickly, as you well know. So is this going to be a Porsche victory? Came in a sense close yesterday because of the way that Ivan Giacomo just annihilated everybody in that first stint, but it just did not pan out for him. Joel Mathias never got the pace together in the second stint, and here you've got Bastian Buus with Jan Kasperlik as the co-driver. Nikolai Müller-Madsen from the third row in the white and blue Dorin-backed Cayman. He's certainly going to be a driver to watch for, and so too in 718 Ivan Giacomo, to see what he can do working his way up from I fear, rear of the grid or near the back of midfield. Joel Mathias not really delivering in the qualifying session yesterday. So that car starting on the 7th row, Mathias, number 718. You can see that he's another of the drivers doing double duty this weekend, GT4 and GT3. But maybe it's difficult to adapt to the two. But you would have thought Mathias, with his great experience, would have been able to rise to the occasion. However, let's see what pans out over the next hour of racing, because the cars now make the run up towards the chicane. The pace car, as it is, driven by Guy Claret, racer himself, will edge now through the chicane, peel for the pit lane, and then the cars will be in their side-by-side formation. The race director, Steve Burns, the British official, hoping for a tidier start today than yesterday. But let us see. Hopefully the message about that will have got through from yesterday, because it really was messy. But the cars now accelerate up towards the exit of what on the official circuit map is turn 17, and coming out of the Hyundai curve now up towards the timing line. The drivers look towards the lights, which are red. When the lights change now, we are in business. And who is going to make the best start then? A good getaway by Piana on the outside line. The Aston Martin, like yesterday, seems to run out of breath in a straight line. So Nikolai Müller-Madsen comes up on the inside line to make it an allied Porsche 1-2. To the outside line goes Müller-Madsen. He's going to challenge for the race lead here, which is a really brave effort. He's going to run out of road. Look, there's a spin. Yesterday's winning Mercedes. He's facing the wrong way. Luc Ibanez has been tagged sideways. He's gone around. And the two allied Porsches absolutely side by side as they come down towards turn 2. Müller-Madsen goes from the outside line to try and get the undercut coming out of the corner, but he can't do it. So it will be Buus leading, Müller-Madsen second. Lots of curve as ever being gobbled up on the inside line as the Porsches there come towards us. Müller-Madsen is determined to get past Bastian Buus. The two Danish drivers going toe-to-toe. Müller-Madsen is ahead on the outside line. That's brave stuff, and it works for him. Bastian Buus gives him racing room, but Nikolai Müller-Madsen from 5th on the grid leads at turn 6. Great first lap for him. Now, what about Luc Ibanez then in that Mercedes? Has he got going? Can he catch up? And how much damage has it done? Downhill to turn 8. Come the race leaders then for the first time. Müller-Madsen up front. Second, Bastian Buus. And third, look, is the Aston Martin in the hands of Theo Nue. The cars now sprint up the hill. So 27 running in third place. Valentin Asclot, Theo Nue his co-driver, and Asclot does the opening stint today. In 4th place it's Gabriele Piana, so the BMW seems to be on its toes nice and early, but lost out again through the opening sequence of corners. And Bob Herber's already up into 5th place in the yellow Mercedes, as there, look, through on the inside line goes Timon Nabours. That puts him up one spot, and also going nicely in the background there was Gilles Vannelet trying to gain back ground as well. So up towards the chicane, heading towards the end of the opening lap they come. And the race leader is Nikolai Müller-Madsen, now trying to edge away as the cars swing their way into the chicane. Challenge on further back, but Jelka Matthias trying to unsettle Vanderlei, but the one that comes off worse is the BMW number 13 across the gravel, sorry, number 12 across the gravel goes Jagiš Gedik, gets it back on just ahead of Matthias. So Matthias tries to attack. Up towards the line come the leaders, and Muller-Madsen from Boost, the gap at the end of lap 1, 4/10 of a second. Third is Asclo, but Gabriele Piana in the BMW comes up to challenge on the outside line there. They break for turn 1, and it's the BM that gets run out wide. Bob Herber is 5th, and there's a battle on for 6th place. Duncan Heisman and Gail Castelli, Camaro and Supra respectively. It's just the Toyota ahead as the cars came through. So on lap 2 here at the Nurburgring, the 6th race in the GT4 European Series, it's Porsches 1 and 2, Aston Martin 3rd, BMW 4th, Mercedes 5th, Toyota 6th and Chevrolet 7th. There with a flash of the light, Jelka Matthias trying to get up past Hassan Tansu. It was in fact the BM that went off the road on that opening lap, but Tansu has recovered and he's keeping Matthias at bay, and he just cannot make the progress here. It's very, very mysterious this, the way that car was so quick in the hands of Ivan Jacoma, but Matthias can't seem to extract the most from it. Downhill they turn with, now also getting in on the act, Kenneth Hyerlook in the green and grey Mercedes. Behind him is Jagiš Gedik's pale blue BMW. How's the McLaren getting on this opening couple of laps? Dropped back a bit. Phil Durr is 10th, having been 6th on the grid, and now Matthias starts to crawl all over the back of Hassan Tansu to try to make that move as the cars make their way up towards the Ravenol curve. He's got the inside line and he goes through, so Matthias finally makes some progress up the order, and so also will Kenneth Hyre in the Mercedes, trying to do on the inside, dives through at the Bilstein curve. Job done, through he goes. Bit of a rub, and that fires Tansu out wide over the curve. Jagiš Gedik in the sister car comes up at the inside line. High trying to defend from everybody up the curve. There goes Jagiš Gedik. So Hassan Tansu drops, what, 3 places over the course of 3 corners there. Good battle on there. Look, you've got Koen Bogarts just ahead of Phil Durr, and then behind him is Timon Nabuas in the Camaro, with next up being Gilles Vanderlei. Leaders go by. It's only 3/10 of a second between Muller-Madsen and Boost, but they are getting away a little bit now from Asclo in 3rd place. Now the Mercedes that had its incident at the first corner got going again, but only as far as the pit lane, and is now a lap down. So there is enough damage to, I fear, put Luke Ibanez out of the race. The car is still being attended to. Who tagged it, we have to have another look at, but the incident, turn 1 is under investigation. It looks as though it might be Timothy Bure that is being cited as the guilty party, number 66 Toyota, because he is being looked at as well. There are the Porsches 1 and 2, Allied Racing's duo, the 2 718 iteration Porsche Caymans through together, Nikolai Müller-Madsen ahead of Bastien Bus, and then behind them is Valentin Asclo catching. No, last lap he dropped another 3/10 of a second, so the 2 Porsches looking good, looking strong up front at the moment. Through they turn further back. Bob Herber, number 31, coming under attack and losing out to Duncan Heisman, who goes through in the Camaro. But now Bus, the pole man, all over the back of Muller-Madsen, then who qualified 5th. So in theory, Bastien Bus should have the speed. Of course, what he doesn't have is the car racing experience that Muller-Madsen has, who came out of the Sirocco Cup, the TT Cup, and then into GT4 racing. He's done a bit of GT3 in his time as well, but he's an experienced peddler, very, very quick, Nikolai Muller-Madsen, and he's keeping Bastien Bus at bay, but only just. And look now, they've started squabbling. Valentin Asclo is getting back amongst them with the Aston Martin. The Porsches do seem to be the quicker cars. The Aston we saw yesterday just does not seem to have the grunt in a straight line, but while these two are holding each other up, so the Aston is being able to claw back some of that lost time. Bob Herber is about to lose another place in the background. Timothy Bure is behind him as Gabriele Piana hustles the BMW way up the curb in 4th. In 5th behind him is Gail Castelli. So with the Porsches battling, there's a concertina effect going on behind. Bob Herber has indeed lost out, because now Timothy Bure goes up and past him. So the SRT Mercedes losing places as the leaders come over the line. 3/10 of a second between them. And is there going to be a chance for Bastien Bus ex-Carter to get past Nikolai Müller-Madsen? Not this time at turn 1, there isn't. Replay of the start. Now, keep an eye on the Mercedes that was 3rd on the grid. Didn't make a great start, so it had already lost places off the line. Down towards turn 1, it's on the inside line. And then where does the contact come from? It is number 66, yeah, bang. Straight into the back, turns the Mercedes around. That was quite a heavy impact, actually. So the car is being investigated, number 66 Timothy Bure, and on that evidence you would have to say yes, he's got a case to answer. This was the opening lap skirmish as well between the two allied Porsches. Muller Madsen crawling all over the back of fellow countryman Bastien Bus, couldn't make it stick through turn 3, lined up then on the exit of 4 and got it down at 5. So there are the leaders, but it's now 3 for the lead. Valentin Asclot has joined the party. Down they come into turn 8 through the right-hander, and Muller Madsen goes a little bit deep there, opens the door slightly for Bastien Bus, who tries the inside, but he couldn't do it. That now puts him on the defensive, climbing the hill, because look, right there behind him, Valentin Asclot crawling all over the back. So it doesn't take long if you hold one another up for the complexion of the race to change. Suddenly, Muller Madsen's getting away, and it's Bastien Bus having to think about defending from Valentin Asclot. 4th is there, Gabriele Piana, 5th on his tail. Gael Castelli in the CMR run, Classic Modern Racing Toyota Supra. The Toyota GR Supra GT4, to give it its full title. The GR bit for Gazoo Racing, the sporting brand from Toyota. And he's on the tail now of that BMW M4 in the hands of Gabriele Piana. Castelli looks for the inside line, can't do it. So the leading 5 have all closed up, as you can see. And on the attack, very definitely, is Gael Castelli, sideways out of the chicane. It's one of the beauties of GT4. They don't have as much aero as GT3, so the cars are a little bit more spectacular in that respect, because you can chuck them sideways. The grip levels aren't the same, so they do move around a bit more, and the driver has to work pretty hard. Over the line, though, come the 2 Porsches, 1 and 2. Muller Madsen still clear of Bus. 3rd, it is Asclot. What about 4th? Here comes the move, does it? To the inside line goes Gael Castelli. He lines up against Gabriele Piana. Piana gives him room, but only just enough on the inside line. And the Nordschleife-based Italian hangs on to position as they round turn 2 now. Hung out to dry on the outside line is Gael Castelli. Is he going to be able to make that move? Not there, he's not. Has to slot back in behind. The race leaders now accelerate out of turn 4 with Bastien Bus coming back at his teammate, and a flash of the light saying, come on, I'm quicker and I'm being caught by the Aston, get out of the way. They are in the same team, but it's every man for himself, of course. But right now, from the team's point of view, it would help in a sense to get one of those cars away and released, and Bastien Bus seemingly has got the pace to do that. Off the road, Timon Nabours. That's at sector 1, that's at turn 1. And by the look of it, he may well have just gone straight on, and that car in the gravel is movable, but whether it needs a safety car to caution the race, let's see. He didn't go straight on. He was given a real rough ride by Gilles Vannelet. So into the gravel goes the Camaro, and although the timing screen says the car spun into the gravel at turn 1, which is technically true, it did spin in there with a bit of help. Luc Ibanez has been out of the pits and back in again, so clearly all is not well in that Mercedes. Real disappointment after yesterday's race win. The damage, I'm afraid, costing them dear. So we lose Timon Nabours then from what was 10th place. And the race leaders powering their way up towards us again. Lap 5. Full course yellow is going to be deployed. We have the 20-second message on the timing screen. So the drivers in 10 seconds will get a full course yellow, which instantly slows down the pace of the race and hopefully will enable Nabour's car to be removed. And there you can see everybody slows right down. Full course yellow is deployed. So the race neutralised. Everybody slows, and now the cars will circulate at this much reduced pace. Now, yesterday we had a full course yellow, which of course morphed into a safety car period. If you can deal with an incident quite quickly, you can let them go. But what a number of race officials tend to do these days is, if it's been a long full course yellow, a lap or 2 or 3 or more, then you've lost so much tire temperature and pressure, it's not really safe to release the cars. Put a safety car out, you can build up the speed and make it a safer restart. So depending on how long it takes to get Timon Nabour's car out of the gravel, it may be that we go safety car. The benefit of a full course yellow straight away is people can slow down straight away, and it's easier to instigate. You don't need to scramble the safety car and risk getting it wrong. There you can see Nabour's out of the car, and the car is almost ready to come out of the gravel, but whether it's a quick enough recovery to let them go on short notice, we'll have to wait and see. Here it is again. So Vannelet to the inside, bang. You can see bodywork flies, bits of debris litter the road, and Timon Nabour's off. Don't forget that Camaro is a big, heavy American lump, so it takes quite a bit of force to turf that off the racetrack, and that's exactly what has happened from the Aston Martin. So full course yellows, you see the flags wave, and the race had exactly the same yesterday with an FCY period. So if a safety car is deployed, it will help people claw back the lost time, like there in the McLaren Phil Durr, who was 10th early on and was 6th on the grid. So clearly time lost in the opening stint, which is a bit quirky compared to what we saw yesterday. Luke Ibanez's car back into the pit lane, as I think I'd mentioned, clearly troubled. And there Joel Camathias trundles on with behind him Koen Bogarts and then Kenneth Heyer. So the Mercedes turns through. Another of the SRT cars, Sellerslach Racing Team cars. Kenneth Heyer, very experienced GT racer, be it GT3, GT4, or even purely Nordschleife-based GT categories like the RCN or what is now the Nurburgring Endurance Series, the LVLN. So he comes down towards turn 8, and we await news of the resumption of the race. Kenneth Heyer heads up the hill into the Ravenel curve, goes the race leader Nikolai Müller-Madsen. So for some of the co-drivers waiting their turn, this is bad news, because the race pace slowed right down. It means there's less time for their guns for hire to be able to build up a gap for them. Door open, I thought, briefly there from Timothée Bure, maybe to get a bit of air into the car. But the CMR, Classic Modern Racing Supra, running 7th. The sister car is 4th, that of Gael Castelli. So the cars make the run at this much reduced pace up towards the Ad Van Bogen, that right-hander that then brings you up the hill towards the chicane. You can see the damage on the front of Bure's car, a legacy of getting into the back of the Mercedes at the first corner. So he's being investigated, and there's a bit of the evidence as to, yes, it was definitely him involved. 45 minutes of the race to go. There is the safety car ready to pick them up. So everybody has slowed. We now put the full course yellow period to safety car. Here is a replay of the start once more. Accelerating down to the first corner to the outside line, Nikolai Müller-Madsen. But look at Bure in the Supra, boom, right into the back of the Mercedes, turns it round. That's also where Phil Durr lost places, look, in the McLaren, because as he had to stand on the brakes, everybody swarmed around him. Out of the turn 2-3 sequence in the arena on the opening lap. That was where we had a spin yesterday from Wim Spinoy, but today everybody good. Wim Spinoy, incidentally, not racing today. His seat alongside Kenneth Heyer taken over by Martin Conrad, who was another driver doing the GT3 6 hours as well. So that gives us 4 drivers doing GT4 and GT3. Valentin Asclot, Timothée Bure, Joel Camathias, and now Martin Conrad. So rather than Kenneth Heyer go solo, Martin Conrad brought into the car, and that therefore will be the man that does the second stint. Right, Luke Ibanez is back out again, 3 laps down, but the car now looks like it's got proper pace, and a problem here may be for 75 that's been brought in by Dario Barrichelli. That was the car that was in the gravel yesterday, caused the equivalent full course yellow, then safety car period. So we've got an incident being investigated, the incident between Vanelay and Nabours. And the safety car now on track. This brings everybody close together. Pirelli rubber everybody uses in this championship. Drivers now jinking around to try to keep up the warmth within. Lights out on top of the safety car. So we'll go back racing at the end of this lap as the field accelerates towards the chicane. And there's confirmation. The race will be back on, and that will give us round about 7 minutes, just under, before the pit window opens. Yesterday it was delayed because the safety car period came later, but today we should be good as the field turns then now towards the right-hander at turn 17. You see the pit in on the inside line there, but now ready to go racing once more on his toes. Nikolai Müller-Madsen comes up towards the line. Accelerates now past the pits, race back on. So Müller-Madsen from Boost from Asklo is the top three. Fourth is Castelli, fifth is Piana, sixth is Duncan Heisman, trying to have a look on the inside line, but as they come down to turn one, the Camaro not really close enough against the BMW, and Piana brakes as late as he dares, but even he wasn't able to do anything about Gael Castelli. So Müller-Madsen leads the way. Porsche 1-2 at the moment, third Aston Martin. There you can see the battle pack for fourth. Gael Castelli's Toyota ahead of the BMW in the hands of Gabriele Piana, and then Duncan Heisman right up behind him in the Chevrolet. Joel Camathias there in the green and grey Porsche looking to try to make progress, but for the moment still stuck in the pack. The Century Porsche Ticino entry not really being able to make much more progress for the moment as Kenneth Hire comes up to challenge the BMW there of Koen Bogaerts. So downhill, the two Porsches, it's still Nikolai Müller-Madsen who took the lead midway around the opening lap, and he has preserved it from Bastien Bus. But now the interest comes in the co-drivers and who has got the quicker driver in the second stint and what that will do to change the order. All up the curve there goes the hard-charging Duncan Heisman. But the two Porsches up front have got closer again. Look, Bastien Bus inching up onto the tail of Nikolai Müller-Madsen. We saw this before the full course yellow period, to the point where Bus, the pole man, was on his light saying, let me through, I'm quicker. They have for the moment gapped Valentin Asklo in third place, but is there going to be an opportunity now for Bus to make a bid for the race lead? If they squabble and hold each other up, the Aston Martin will come back at them. So to an extent they need to work together, but equally Bus, if he thinks he's faster, would want to be ahead. Through the chicane he powers now. Way up the curve, Nikolai Müller-Madsen, and it's a high curve as well, but as you see, it really does make an impact against the car. Round the right-hander, onto the pit straight, they will come now. Boost with a fractionally tighter line maybe, but he's not able to sprint up the inside as the leaders come over the line. Down to turn one, the gap 9/10, Boost fastest lap of the race now. Going one side and then the other is the Camaro there. Duncan Heisman tries to have a go. Is he going to be able to get past Piana? Again, no, he can't do it. So Nikolai Müller-Madsen, race leader. Bastien Bus in second, but this battle is for fifth now, and suddenly they've dropped away from Gael Castelli in fourth place because Piana has to go defensive, and he just therefore can't stay with Castelli, who released. He's able to close on Asklo. Heisman comes up to have a look at Piana, can't do it there. Timothy Bure in seventh place, waiting to see what pans out ahead of him, and then maybe he'll be able to strike. Race leaders are down at turn 8. They turn their way now through that right-hander. Joel Camathias under attack from Bob Herbert. Now Camathias has made progress since the restart, got himself ahead of Herbert for example, but is he going to be able to do enough to bring Ivan Jacoma back into the mix? So Müller-Madsen leads, he's gained 4 places, but Gael Castelli now running in 4th place, 6 places gained from the qualifying effort. Good going that, helped in part by dramas for others admittedly, but the car has got good pace. Yet to win this year, the Toyota. But it's had a couple of second places, so don't rule it out as the race unwinds with 39 minutes still on the clock here. Porsches nose to tail as they come up towards the chicane once more. Flick left, flick right. Müller-Madsen fending off the challenge of Bastien Bus. Again, he rides the curve. Bastien maybe just a little bit tidier coming out of that chicane. And now they loop right through turn 17 onto the pit straight once again. Leaders go by with a gap that was 0.296 of a second being now 0.381 of a second. Asklo is still third ahead of Gael Castelli. And then almost everybody else in the line for fifth, isn't it? Piana ahead of Heisman, ahead of Bure. In the battered Toyota, Phil Durr is 8th. Joel Camathias is now 9th, and down to 10th has gone Bob Herbert. There, Kenneth Hire tries to challenge. I'm surprised that there's not more pace out of that Mercedes. Kenneth is a very rapid driver, but for some reason he's just not able to get through the traffic today. GT4 European Series with It's a great mix of cars, good mix of drivers as well, from different nations, different levels of experience, and hard work going on to keep building the entry. But of course, inevitably, like lots of championships, the events of the recent pandemic have affected things, but I'm sure it'll be even stronger next year. The 20 that we have this weekend giving good racing and plenty of drama, and they're starting to look even more second hand now is the Supra in the hands of Timothée Buret. That'll need the tank tape on it at the pit stop, I would have thought. So the race leaders down at turn 8, the two Porsche Caymans swing through together. The next of the Porsches is a long, long way back in comparison. Joachim Matthias for the Porsche Cup Suisse entry turns out of the turn 8 right-hander now and climbs the hill. The leaders, again, nose to tail. Now that last lap, they were still outpacing Asclo, but they need to be careful here, because if they do start tripping over themselves again, it will bring the Aston Martin nearer, as we had earlier on in the race. Nose to tail again now, behind for 5th. Gabriele Piana under a serious attack now from Duncan Heisman. And there is a drive-through penalty being offered for Timothée Buret for causing that turn 1 collision. So 66, Timothée Buret gets a drive-through penalty for causing a collision. And that will have to be served now. In fact, you can see it in the background. The message gets through, so Buret into the pit lane, and that will drop him down the order. It doesn't, of course, negate the problem for Luc Ibanez, who's effectively out of the race 3 laps down, but at least it does mean that there was no benefit gained by the Toyota. So the leaders go through, half a second being the margin between them, but on that lap, so Asclo in 3rd place did lap quicker than the two ahead of him. Gabriele Piana still under attack. Heisman tucked up behind him. There is Buret serving the drive-through. The car will have to come back in, of course, anyway, to give way to Antoine Potti. And Gabriele Piana under massive attack from Duncan Heisman, the man that's won the touring car gear race at Macau more times than anybody, and very, very experienced production saloon, Group N, and then GT4 racer, brother of Patrick Heisman, Porsche Super Cup legend. But Duncan, who has barely missed a GT4 race, hasn't been out this year, which has been a real surprise up till now. But it's good to have him back on the grid. Downhill goes Bob Herber, again electing to go solo. And a reminder that Kenneth Heyer gets a new co-driver for today, with Martin Conrad set to take over that car in the 2nd stint. There is Bob Herber. He's the leading AM at the moment, and he has been victorious in the AM class in both of the Misano races. So despite his extra 10 seconds in the pits, it is still able for that to be overcome by Bob Herber. See how he fares in the remaining 35 minutes of this race. Remember, 10 seconds extra in the pits, but with Gilles Vannelet, last race winner in AM, being investigated for the contact with Nabors, it might play into Bob Herber's hands anyway. Piana under attack still in this battle for 5th as they come downhill. Duncan Heisman behind him. So it's BMW versus the light flashing Chevrolets. They power through the Ad Van Bogen now, climb the hill once more to the chicane. Heisman thinks about the inside, can't do it, but the BMW fends him off here. The pit window is now open, and interestingly, Camathias is the first man to bail. So Joel Camathias down the pit road. Also in the BMW of Jagish Gedik. So those two pit early. That could be very important indeed to maximise the driving time for your quicker co-driver. Cembol Bazi will take over in the BM, and Ivan Jacoma, yesterday's pole man, will take over the Cayman, as the other two from Allied Racing, the other two quick Porsches here, are still going toe-to-toe. Bastien Bous really frustrated that in the entirety of his stint he's not been able to find a way by. Out gets Joel Camathias, and in will get Ivan Jacoma. Camathias walked away. Team seemed happy with his work. And a drive-through penalty for Gilles Vannelet for causing a collision now. So going back to the AM contest for a moment, Bob Herber's chances have just taken a big step forward, because Gilles Vannelet and Nico Gomal's car, a drive-through penalty for nerfing Nabors into the gravel. Nikolai Müller-Madsen still leads the way. Now these two quicker than their co-drivers, but the co-drivers pay the bill. So at what point do they bleed into the pit lane? Let's see. In 3rd place still is Asclo, dropping back. There, back into the pit lane comes Timothée Buret to give the car over to Antoine Potti, and for the roughed up Supra to get the tank tape to hold the bodywork on. Scrutineers having a look at that car as well. rip off anything you don't need and then send it back into the race. Right, Jagish Gedik's car at the forefront of the picture there, being given over to Cembo Lubazi, the man that won the Formula Renault Esports Championship in lockdown. And that car will be released shortly as the leaders plunge downhill once again here. Number 21, Nikolai Müller-Madsen, fending off, for the moment at least, Bastien Bus. But is there going to be a change on track? Is there going to be a change even in the pits between these two? Bus has tried everything to get past the more experienced Danish driver, his fellow countryman Nikolai Müller-Madsen ahead, but it's just to no avail right now. Third is Asclo, in fourth place Gael Castelli, and into the pit lane goes Duncan Heisman then to give that car over to Jorge Cabezas, the Spaniard. So Nikolai Müller-Madsen still leads by only 0.3 of a second, and to the pit lane there now dives Koen Bogarts to give the BMW over to Mark van der Aar. The Porsches come out of turn one as one still, and Bastien Bus, you've got to give him credit, he has tried pretty much everything in this through he turns, but Nikolai Müller-Madsen has been able to fend him off. These two Cayman GT4 Club Sports running as one, as into the pit lane Duncan Heisman now gives the car over to Jorge Cabezas. Out gets the Dutch driver, and the Yang tank sits there. The seat is adjusted, made ready for Cabezas. These pit stops done to a time, of course, rather than as quick as you can, so you've got the provision there for safety things, like having to make any adjustments to the seat, the cushions for the co-driver to take over. So 92 seconds is the pit stop time. It was a very good stop from Ivan Jacoma, 93 seconds, 93.8 for the Cembo Lubazi BMW. So minimum time wasted. You tend to think that everybody will do it to the 10th to that time. Well, it's not quite as straightforward as that. Some will perhaps elect to lose a second just to be on the safe side rather than being under on the pit stop time and therefore get a penalty. But it's as close to that 92 as you can do it, really. That's the key to all of this. Yesterday we had people just a 10th over it. So the two leading Porsches on lap 13 coming down the hill together, with Valentin Asclo in touch in that third place. Thwarted yesterday with a punctured tyre right at the very end of the race. Gael Castelli is in fourth, but dropping back a bit now in the Toyota Supra. Up the hill they come, through the left and right of the chicane. Phil Doer in the McLaren coming towards us, yet to stop. Likewise Bob Herber. So the order shuffles, of course, through the pit stop window like this. But as the leaders go by, 1.3 seconds cover the top three. Asclo again has benefited a little by the squabbling Caymans ahead of him. The two Porsches holding one another up, and that means that Asclo is getting back into the mix in third place. Nose to tail, the two Porsches then up towards turn 4, and again the danger here is that Bus gets stuck. Müller-Madsen delays him and they get caught by Valentin Asclo, but the Allied Racing team will be watching this, an eye on each car and hoping that there's no contact between the two. Bastien Bus wide into turn 6. Can he get the undercut coming out of the corner as they head down the hill? Can he challenge maybe on the run into turn 8 at the foot of the hill now? Nose to tail they run. Nikolai Müller-Madsen still leads the way. The Lumi rank showing that it's him driving, and it's 001 the position on the car. Out of the right-hander, onto the power once more, up the hill they turn. There in the pit lane, stop cycling through with Johan Vannerum giving way to Jean-Luc Behetz nearest to us. The safety car procedure of number 13 is under investigation, 13 being Hassan Tansu, who's yet to stop, so Hassan Tansu is being investigated for the safety car procedure. And the race leaders in the second half of the race now come out of the Bilstein curve, down the hill once again. You can see how the Aston brings itself back into the mix as the Porsches squabble, but he just doesn't have the same outright speed. Valentin Asclo having to work the car really hard, having to try and hope that the Porsches trip over themselves, but also if he can stay in touch, and Theo Nue's pace is good, he might have a chance in the second stint. As in he comes, and in comes the leader too, Nikolai Müller-Madsen, and also a late shuffle to the pit lane, Gael Castelli. The car almost getting away underneath him as he flung it into the pit lane there. So Bastien Bus will be a race leader. but kind of only because of the fact Moller Madsen has pitted. It's by default, really, in a way. So Bastien Bus now does get a clear lap in, and this will be interesting to see what pace he can do, if any for one lap maybe, to try to make up for some of the time lost by being stuck behind Nicolai Moller Madsen for 14 laps as good as. Valentin Asclot down the pit lane. Moller Madsen arrives to give way to Jörg Wiebahn, very experienced driver. Regular here in the 24 hours as well is Jörg Wiebahn, so in he gets. So now you go from the Pro to the Am. Jörg is quick, don't misunderstand, but he's a businessman racer. Nicolai Moller Madsen, who's made a good name for himself in GT4, perhaps itching to get a proper GT3 seat. He was for many a season on the Audi roster for GT4 with Phoenix, and occasionally got a GT3 outing, and either the 24 hours here or the VLN, but that's not manifested itself into a long-term programme for him. So Nicolai Moller Madsen picking up drives where he can. Bastien Bus makes the climb uphill, uses lots of curb to use as much of the width of the road as he possibly can into and through the Schumacher S. So now that he's on his own, what are his sector times like? Well, okay, but not actually purples as yet. So Bastien Bus coming to the end of his stint. He may even have to come in this time because there's not much of the window left. It's, remember, 25 to 35 minutes, so yeah, he'd have to come in this time, otherwise he will be out of time with another lap under his belt. Missed the cut. So he'd have to be in this time, and Bastien Bus then will give that car over to Jan Kasperlik. Jörg Wiebahn in the sister car back into the race, as in will come now Bastien Bus, the race leader, comes into the pits, slows the car down as he turns now through the right-hander at pit in, up towards the timing line, at which point you stand on the anchors now, slow the car down to the regulation pit lane speed limit, and arrive at Allied Racing, which of course has quite shrewdly got the cars in on different laps so they're not stacking and getting in each other's way. So we'll hear Wiebahn get himself back ahead on the pit stops. Gabriele Piana in as well. He left it late to give way to Bas Schouten. And Bob Herber comes in also. Right there, ready to get on board, is Jan Kasperlik. Out gets BB, Bastien Bus. Throws the cushion away. And now Jan Kasperlik will get on board. So can that car come out ahead of this Porsche? And look, you can see now that Wiebahn has got Theo Nue pretty much with him. That gap coming down further back in the pack. Ivan Jacoma there has got Alexei Sijov not far adrift either. So these two squabbling, although Jacoma has actually gained a place against that McLaren on this lap. So Jacoma making progress. So that car can yet gain ground before the end, and if another safety car were to bunch up everybody, it would be a very jumbled order. So Kasperlik is in. Bastien Bus helps him with the belts and the intercom and all the connections that need to be done. He'll close the door, walk away, and then it's over to the car controller to release that to see whether it will keep the race lead. Where will it feed back in? 92 seconds, pit in to pit out. The car ready to be released. They'll have to measure this, the drive time from the pit bay at a given speed. Away it goes. And it crosses the line now and should be able to maintain the advantage, except I've got a horrible feeling that's under on the pit stop time, because it comes up as 1 minute 31.6 and it should be 1 minute 32. Oh dear, there might be trouble brewing for number 22 Porsche. The Allied Racing car has come out ahead, but I fear it is a bit short on the pit stop, only by 0.4 of a second. Let's see, 27 goes through Theo Nue on the back, and now at the inside and ahead of the Porsche of Jörg Wiebahn. So finally the Aston gets in and amongst the Caymans here. Theo Nue goes through, so that puts him second. But looking at the timing screen, it could be that the story continues for the car ahead and its lead is not quite so secure. So Theo Nue for AGS Events in the Aston Martin goes up into second place. His pit stop time was also, in fact, fractionally short, 1:31.9 rather than 1 minute and 32 seconds. Also, 89, which is the Vanillé now Gomar Aston, is being looked at for its pit speed, but the top two in the race, looking at the times registered on the screen, are slightly under the regulation pit stop time. So there's going to be a sting in the tail for this race on that evidence as the leaders go out of turn 8. Replay here of a spinning Jorge Cabezas coming out of the Schumacher S's. Around he goes, and Ivan Jacoma has to dodge around the outside of him there. So Jacoma making progress, but largely with other people having moments. So there is the leading car, but by the evidence on the timing screen, a little bit short on the pit stop. In second on the road now, you've got the 27 Aston Martin, also fractionally short on the pit stop time. 4/10 under was the Porsche, 1/10 under was the Aston Martin there. So Nue comes out of the chicane, and then in third place, Jörg Wiebahn, who could be in the box seat here, depending on what applies to the two leading cars. To be a 10th under is pretty harsh if a penalty comes, but it's under, isn't it? Over the line go the top three then. So it is now Jan Kasper leading from Theo Nue. Jörg Wiebahn is third. Stefan Lemeret is fourth in the Toyota. In fifth place, 111 now Baschrauten, and Ivan Jacoma in the 718 Cayman is in sixth place. So 92 seconds is the pit stop time. Wiebahn there is the best of those that are on the pit stop time. And Nikolai Müller-Madsen did a great job in that car, and he is third at the moment. Nikolai Müller-Madsen, his co-driver in the pits, is with Gemma.
Nikolai, your stint there was very strong. You were driving very defensively. You happy with that stint?
Yeah, really happy with my stint. I mean, I did everything I could. Put me from P5 to P2 after the first corner, and then I passed Basti, and I think I could control the gap really well. Saved the tires. Yeah.
It was a very strong battle between yourself and Bastian.
Yeah, it was nice. Bastian was fair to me, and I blocked where I knew he was faster. And in the end, I really just tried to control the tires to Jörg, so he also had something to race against. I hoped we could stop a bit later, so we could keep the lead, but I don't know why, but we stopped early. Yeah, looks like there's a team, there's a car in the team we're racing for the win, and we are there for help them. So if that's how it is, then it's how it is. Then.
Do you think you can claw it back now?
No.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Well, maybe on pure pace, Jörg Wiebahn can't, but we've now got pit stops being investigated. Number 31 is having its pit stop time investigated, and that's Bob Herber. And that's because he is under his 92 plus 10. But as I say, we're going to have others, I'm sure, looked at also. There is Bob Herber, who is currently running in 8th place, and he's having his pit stop time looked at. His should have been 1 minute and 42, and it was 1 minute 40. So there's evidence there as to why it's being looked at. Leaders go through, and it is still Jan Kasperlik who leads the way from Theo Nue, but they're the two cars that I'm concerned about with their pit stop time. So Jörg Wiebahn, even though his co-driver is a bit downbeat, namely Nikolai Müller-Madsen, their pit stop time was not bad. It was only 0.3 of a second slower than the regulation minimum, but it looks like Jörg Wiebahn's pace on his outlap just not quite as good. Theo Nue is doing a good job, that's for sure. So Nue 2.9 seconds behind the race leader, although last time around Kasperlik was quicker than the young French driver. So Jan, an experienced driver of GT4 machinery. There is Wiebahn, look, being caught a little bit by Stefan Lemeret. Toyota about to turn downhill, and Stefan Lemeret, very experienced racer journalist, comes towards turn 8 then now, brakes for the right-hander, turns into the long looping right. He's going to get back onto the power, climbs the hill, and that gap coming down and down. It was 0.9 of a second, another couple of tenths pull back in the first sector alone. So yeah, Lemeret is on the money here. So car number 8, the Toyota Supra, inching up onto the back of the Cayman that dominated the first stint, but Jörg Wiebahn just not really being able to deliver here, and he's losing pace, isn't he? Although, let's see, the last lap that he did was a 2:07. Yeah, he is dropping into the clutches of the Toyota behind, and in turn dropping away from Nue. Now, Bastien Bus got the lead, but a bit concerned about the pit stop time. What does Bastien think? Bastien is with Gemma.
Bastien, You drove a fantastic stint. You were all over the back of Nikolai. Your pit stop looked very, very fast. Was it a little bit too fast?
Yeah, I think the strategy was to stay behind Nikolai because I was faster than him. So I saw he was pushing like hell, and then I kept behind him and saved the tires a bit for Jan and tried to make an undercut in the pit stop. We took the Joker pit stop today, which means we could do 1 second faster, and therefore we are in front now.
You don't think the pit stop was too fast? It's not going to pose a problem?
Huh?
There's no problem posed from the time from the pit stop?
I can hear what you're saying. It's too loud. It's too loud. But yeah, overall I think the speed is good. So I hope Jan will get into the finish line like this. So let's see. And I don't know if we get a penalty if you say
we will see. Thank you.
So a Joker pit stop is something that you find in GT3, which allows you to be under the regulation. It's used, for example, in a 6-hour race once, and in GT4 terms, I think you can use it once a season. So if they've elected to do it in that race, then let us see. Bob Herber is being given a 1 second stop-go penalty for his being too short, but if the teams notify race control that they've used that Joker, then it gets them off the hook in this race. There's a change there. Lemeray goes ahead of Vibar. What we don't know, of course, is if the team's nominated Joker pit stop, but if that's the case to race control, then they will be allowed to get away with that pit stop time, but they can only do it once having nominated that Joker stop. So Kasperlik leading on track. Bastien Bous happy with the way the stint went, and the team using that Joker in order to do that better stop from the evidence that he's just given us there. Dropping a place, Jörg Vibar. So now we've got Stefan Lemeray up into 3rd place, but is he going to be able to do anything about the top two? Kasperlik to Nue, 2.3 seconds as they come across the line. And there, Ivan Jacoma comes up to have a go at Baschhouten and goes 5th on the inside line. So Jacoma making progress, but he's still the best part of 15 seconds away from the race leaders. So what he could do with is another interruption to bunch up the field with 15 minutes to go. There is 27, which is Theo Nue. He's in 2nd place. His last lap was quicker, actually, than the Porsche ahead of him, but he has still got to try to make up the 2-second deficit against Jan Kasperlik as the cars now accelerate their way once more out of turn 8. Kasperlik clear, Nue 2nd, Lemeray in 3rd, and the car's currently on the 20th lap of the race. We've got 14 minutes to go, and Jan Kasperlik looking secure for the moment at any rate. Nue in 2nd place, Stefan Lemeray 3rd. Now Lemeray's last lap was a little bit slower, but he had to get through the traffic, and so we'll see whether or not he's able to do anything about number 21 there, which is Jörg Vibar in 4th place. Sorry, whether he can get away from Jörg Vibar and do anything about Theo Nue further up the road. He's got to make up just under 5 seconds now against that car. Getting out of the way is the troubled Xavier Lloveras Mercedes. Remember, they got turned round at the first corner, and he is going to, I fear, head back for the pit lane with problems persisting on that Mercedes. So 14 minutes still on the clock, and the race leaders come now down towards the completion of the lap. Up towards the timing line will come Jan Kasperlik. He's still got this margin of over 2 seconds ahead of Theo Nue. Is it down? Is it up on that last lap through? The gap comes down quite markedly, in fact, 1.6 seconds. So Theo Nue getting the gap down yet further. Might be able to have a go back at the race leader before the very end of the race here. We're assuming, seeing that they're not being looked at, that Nue's team, AGS Events, have also used a Joker pit stop. So despite the initial fears, it looks like they might be okay, having notified the race officials that they will be Jokers, those pit stops. So the race leaders currently on the 21st lap of the race. There, Bob Herbert has just served his extra stop-go penalty for being short on the stop, and now goes back into the race. So as the cars swing out of the S's, Jan Kasperlik 1.6 seconds only now ahead of Theo Nue. Is that going to come down enough before the end of the race to give an opportunity for the Aston Martin driver to have a go at the race leader? Because certainly it was a big chunk of time found on that last lap. Anyway, through the first sector, a bit slower. What about the middle sector? Coming up the hill now to break the beam. So in the middle sector of the lap, yeah, takes a couple of attempts back out of Jan Kasperlik. So he is still pressing on here, doing his absolute level best to take the battle to that leading Porsche. Race leaders currently then start lap 22. Lemeray third, Vibahn fourth, Jacoma is fifth, and he's just done that car's best lap of the race. So even Jacoma now lapping quicker than anybody else on track, believe it or not. And there with a problem is Martin Conrad, who has slowed right down and, oops, jinxed across the road. Now what's going on here? Is that a fuel-related drama, or has he got a mechanical problem? Let's see. I just wondered if it was a punctured tyre, but no. So there, the car limps up the hill. It's almost like he's trying to shake the fuel around, isn't it? But that Mercedes with a problem, that's for sure. So the race leaders climb the hill once again. The gap at the start of this lap had come down again to 11/10ths of a second. Third place remains Stefan Lemeray, fourth Jörg Vibahn, but there's the danger behind, because Ivan Jacoma is inching up bit by bit by bit, 13 seconds off the race lead. I don't think he's going to get there, but I just wonder whether he might get to the podium before the very end. Replay here of Phil Dorr getting himself up past, oh sorry, now Alexei Sijov getting up past Barshouten in the McLaren, throw on the inside at turn 8, and that will now put the McLaren up into the top 6. Not only that, but he's also chasing after the Porsche of Ivan Jacoma. So there is Theo Nue, 1.2 seconds back. In has come Martin Conrad to see what can be done about the damage to the Mercedes. So the race leaders are on lap 23, and we've got just under 9 minutes of the race to go. Just to clear up that Joker pit stop, it is once per an event that you can use it, so you've got the ability to use it in one of the two races, depending on which one it is. Now, number 13 is being given a drive-through penalty for not following the safety car procedure correctly, that being the BMW just come down the pit road now, in actual fact, being driven by Ibrahim Okiai now. So up front, Kasperlik leading Nue, You can see what the gap is. It is a modest one, just over a second. Nue had brought it down a little bit, then it stretched slightly between that top two. There goes 27. Nue flicks into the chicane. The Aston Martin did win the second race at Misano, round 4 of the championship. Can it win round 6? Can it win the second Nurburgring race with 7 3/4 minutes on the clock? It's certainly possible. The gap is not a big one. And as they come across the line, let's just see. The beam is broken. 1.2 seconds last time. Now stays at 1.2 seconds. Third is still Stéphane Lemeray. Look in the background, Ivan Jacoma. Now the 718 Porsche hustles on behind Jörg Wiebahn. Is that gap going to come down enough? It's 4 seconds, and he's lapping almost a second a lap quicker. It is possible, but it's not a given, is it? I think Jacoma will get close, but Jörg Wiebahn, even if he doesn't have the pace, might just be able to maintain the gap to the very end of the race. So there you've got the race leaders once more into the S's that takes you into turns 5 and 6. Up the hill goes Nue, trying now to get onto the tail of that leading Cayman, but try as he might, he just cannot get close enough, can he? So as the cars work lap 24, we have then the race leading Cayman down the hill. In sector 1 it was fractionally quicker, so it's still advantage Kasperlik at the moment. Theo Nue chases on behind as the cars again accelerate towards the chicane, and as they do so, can Nue now start to chip away. Again, it's just like we saw in the first stint really. The Porsche just has that slight edge. Doesn't matter who's driving it, it is the car more than the driver in a sense. The Aston just does not have quite the same speed under the BOP seemingly this weekend. The Porsche, with its shape, with its engine size, just has that advantage, whereas the Aston, slightly heavier car, the front-engined Aston Martin, comes over the line. In theory, you're expected to have lots of grunt, but it just can't match the pace of the Porsche. It doesn't matter which Porsche it is, because we've seen it attack different ones with different drivers over the course of the weekend. So 1.4 seconds and 5 minutes to go. The gap is up fractionally therefore. Jan Kasperlik is going to be able to squeeze 2 more laps out of it at the end of this. As further back in the pack now, look, there's a challenge on. Jean-Luc Behet coming under real attack from Giuseppe Gezzi, who in turn has got the penalised Nico Gomar behind him. Bob Herber, incidentally, even after his penalty, still leads the AMS, but this is the battle for second of the AMS. Jean-Luc Behet just ahead of Gezzi, just ahead of Gomar. Could all end up in a big heat, this, the way they're going, but it's 13th overall and it's second in the AM category. Heading up the hill into the chicane, so you can see a bit of dirt at the front of the Mercedes, suggesting it's been off the road, but Jean-Luc Behet hangs onto position, flicks out of the chicane up the curb there, quite wide up the curb actually, relative to Giuseppe Gezzi behind him, number 76, the Auto Orlando Sport car. And a replay here of maybe how that car got dirt in the front of it. What a wild ride that was for Jean-Luc Behet. Goes through the beach, mows the lawn, bounces back onto the racetrack, and 4 minutes remain here for him to try to fend off Gezzi and Gomar. Down to turn 1 they come again. Hard on the brake, swing through that right-hander. So now 89 to the inside line. Nicolas Gomar trying to salvage places, trying to salvage points, and he will go through there, makes the job done. Does he on the inside? Yeah. Good effort that. Through he goes on the inside line. So as the race leaders work lap 25, Nico Gomar getting himself up to now 3rd place of the AMS. Can he go 2nd before the end? Certainly the way that he's gone hitherto this season would suggest that he can. 2 wins within the AM category Nicolas Gomar and Gilles Vannelet have had. Now, if you can get past Behetz, that'd still put him 9.5 seconds back from Bob Herber, so I don't think he's going to have a win, but maybe second in class is a possibility. You can see the damage on the left-hand side, and there might be more damage if he steps off the road like that. Runs wide out of turn 8, and actually Giuseppe Getzi, who was kind of measuring his pace against the Aston, went with him, so that means they both drop back. Now the wipers are on, as in all the arm twirling. The stalk has been knocked by Nico Gomar. Hasn't got time to turn them off yet, because he's busy defending from Getzi, but the wipers, in this rather futile gesture, wave to the world as he comes up towards the Bilstein curve now on lap 26. And they're still going as well. 2.5 minutes are on the clock. A flying lap at the moment is a 2:07. And the race leader is not far off, breaking the timing beam, starting the lap. Kaspelik there will get one more lap out of it at the end, won't he? Because he's now halfway around lap 26. Theo Nue 1.4 seconds adrift. So frustrating for the Aston crew. They have been close, but devoid of cigars in both races here. As long as the puncture that they had yesterday doesn't replicate itself, they'll be okay, I think, for a good points finish. But benefiting also in turn from the demise of yesterday's winners early on, Luke Ibanez and Xavier Lloveras, that's, I think, now retired from the race. That car, I know it's still circulating, but 4 laps down. Giuseppe Getzi climbs the hill on the back of the Aston once again. They're up through the arena, all of which is enabling Jean-Luc Behetz to get away. Bob Herber comes into turn 5, and he's the man leading the AM contest, don't forget. So through the right-hander he goes. This would be a 3rd victory of the season for him. 2 wins to Gomar and Vanderlei, and 1 to Paolo Meloni and Giuseppe Valli in the opening race at Imola. So Meloni with the BMW came out on top there, but since it's been honours shared between Gomar, Vanderlei and Herber. So the leaders will be on the last lap now with less than a lap time left in the race. The gap is down to 11 tenths as they start the last lap, but Jan Kaspelik looking as though he's got enough in hand here. This will be the best result for him and Bastien Bus this season. They've had a Pro-Am win, but not an overall win. Indeed, they did win Pro-Am yesterday, but an outright victory will be something very special indeed. Definitely helped by that Joker pit stop, allowing you to just do a slightly shorter pit stop time. You can use that once an event. And there is Kaspelik then down the hill. Out of turn 6, maintaining this advantage, even though Nue is near him, close behind. He's still not getting close enough to really mount a proper bid here for race leadership. Into turn 8 they come. Brake, turn into that right-hander. Theo Nue throwing everything at it on the last lap, trying again to use as much of the curb as he can, to use as much road as he possibly can, but equally not use so much that he risks cutting a tyre, if that were the problem yesterday. It was the only car where he really had a puncture problem with, and it came right at the end of the race. But Nue here, hanging on to that 2nd place. Perhaps there's a thought now, just bank the points, but Jan Kaspelik heading for an outright win. Great result this for him and Bastien Bus as the Porsche Cayman climbs towards the chicane. The checkered flag is being made ready on the start line. The cars now flick up towards turn 17. Up the curb goes Kaspelik, sets the car up. 1 more corner to go. The checkered flag is at the ready, and it's going to be a race win in the 6th round of the GT4 European Series for Jan Kaspelik and Bastien Bus. That comes across the line. The Porsche wins 2nd. Theo Nue and Valentin Asclose Aston Martin. 3rd will be the Toyota. There it is in the background. Stéphane Lemeray and Gaël Castelli, and Ivan Jacoma 4th ahead of Jörg Wiebahn. So Jacoma and Camathias take 4th. Wiebahn and Moller Madsen only 5th, having dominated the early stint. 6th goes the way of Alexis Sijov and Phil Durr. And 7th in the background, the car that dominated Imola, Bas Schouten and Gabriele Piano, another car that under the BOP just does not seem to have had the pace this weekend. 8th will be Cemboluch Bazi and Jagish Gedik's BMW there. Look, coming up towards the line now. Another BMW for 9th, Mark van der Aar and Koen Bogart's car. And for 10th, it should be Jorge Cabezas, despite a spin in the surviving V8 Racing Chevrolet Camaro. Here's the winning AM. Bob Herber making his way up towards the chicane, and for 12th place he will finish. Through he turns. So Bob Herber 12th overall, just behind Antoine Potty, who of course never really recovered from the drive-through penalty that car had for the contact at the start of the race. And then for second of the AMS, Behetz ahead of Gomar, ahead of Getzi. So Jean-Luc Behetz comes through just ahead to take second in class. The gap between Behetz and Gomar at the end was 0.3 of a second. A very close run thing right up to the very end. So it is a first outright win of the year for Jan Kasperlik and Bastien Buus. From in second place, Theo Nue and Valentin Asclot. Third, going the way of Stéphane Lemaire and Gaël Castelli. Yet another podium for the Toyota. Silver honours going the way of Nue and Asclot. Pro-Am to the overall winners, Kasperlik and Buus for the second time this weekend, and the AM winner, Bob Herber. So confirmation of how they crossed the line. Jan Kasperlik and Bastien Buus victorious from Theo Nue and Valentin Asclot. Stéphane Lemaire and Gaël Castelli third from Ivan Jacquemin and Joel Camathias. Fifth in the end, Jörg Wiebahn and Nikolai Müller-Madsen. That car just fading away in the second stint, but keeping at bay Alexis Sijov and Phil Dorr. Schouten and Piana seventh from Balakbazi and Gedik. Van der Art and Burgarts ninth, and Karathas and Heisman in 10th place. Some with problems not getting to the end, some off the road, not getting very far at all, like the Camaro of Timon Nabours that deprived Job Raponge of a drive. So the winning drivers will make their way into Parc Fermé. We'll have a quick look at the highlights of that race that all began with a bang down at the first corner. Heading into the braking zone to the outside line, you had Nikolai Müller-Madsen in the pack. Antoine Potty, Timothy Buret's car got into the back of the Ibanez Lloveras Mercedes, turned it around. Timothy Buret would cop a drive-through. At the end of the lap, there was drama for Hassan Tansu as he ran off the road, back on again, but would lose more places. The field streaming past him as he got back onto the road. Try as he might, Bastien Buus could not find a way past Nikolai Müller-Madsen. This good chance came at turn 8. The Stéphane Lemaire Gaël Castelli Toyota was also in the mix, looking for a way up past Gabriele Piana, but Piana was able to hang on to position, but only just. Then more drama. Gilles Vannelet got involved with Timon Nabours and sent the Camaro off into the gravel down at turn 1. That brought out the full course yellow and then safety car situations. 75 was retired Dario Barrichelli out of the race. On the restart then, battles continued. Duncan Heisman all over the back of Gabriele Piana. Drive-through served by Timothy Buret as the pit stop window then opened. Early in was Joel Camathias, giving the car over to Ivan Jacquemin, and Bastien Buus did an extra lap over his teammate and served the joker pit stop. In other words, they could be 1 second short in one of the two races, and they elected to use that to jump into the lead. A spin for Jorge Cabathas, who'd just taken over from Hausmann. Then we had Alexis Sijov getting out his elbows and getting up the inside of Bach Schouten's BMW to gain a place going through turn 8, as through it all, Jan Kasperlik was looking good for the race win. Jean-Luc Behetz had a real go at getting it wrong at the Schumacher S's, but just ploughed across the gravel to come out in front. Behind him, Gilles Vannelet moved through on the inside of Giuseppe Getzi, putting the Aston ahead of the Porsche. Then he went off the road. The Porsche followed suit. Checkered flag, a first outright win of the year for Jan Kasperlik and Bastien Buus, ahead of Valentin Asclot and Theo Nue, with Stéphane Lemaire and Gaël Castelli taking third here at the Nurburgring. So Bastien Buus, with his face mask on, goes to assist Jan Kasperlik and to congratulate him after a very impressive drive indeed. So good work on the pit stops. There you've got the Toyota that's still there or thereabouts, knocking on the door of that first outright win. Drivers in a moment will be called forward, ready to make their way up onto the presentation area. There are, of course, the 3 classes. So you have the silvers, the Pro-Ams and the Ams. In silver, it was Nue and Asclot from Lemaire and Castelli, and then Sijov and Dur. In Pro-Am, Kasperlik and Bus ahead of Jacoma and Camathias, and then Wiebahn and Muller-Madsen in third. But let's hear from our outright winners, Jan Kasperlik and Bastian Bus, with Gemma.
Fantastic result for both of you there, Jan. You've just got out the car, still looking very hot. But that pit stop absolutely worked for you. The strategy was correct.
Yeah, 100% true. The strategy was okay. So we were on P2, and the sister car was quite well, but we have seen already that the sister car couldn't do the pace what Bastian could do. So it was a strategy decision. So for sure we have now some rumor between the race drivers. That's normal, but they have to sort this out, and that's it. In the end, we won overall. So that was the goal.
You were confident that that would be absolutely the result, Bastian.
Yeah, I was stronger in the race than Nikolai. I felt like I have more pace than he had. So I just saved the tires to Jan, so he could make a better half stint of the race.
And it worked, and that Joker absolutely played exactly as it was meant to. Well done, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So an excellent result for Jan Kasperlik and Bastian Bus, the drivers in Parc Fermé. And now they will be called forward the AMs, just out of interest. Of course, going the way of Bob Herber, once again, from the Johan van der Rum, Jean-Luc Behet's car, third in the class, Gilles Vannelet and Nico Gomar. But there we have the third-placed Pro-Am drivers, Jörg Wiebahn and Nikolai Müller-Madsen, stepping forward. So congratulations to them. Nikolai certainly frustrated. You can see the way he just walks away, feeling rather hard done by, I think, after the good first stint that he had, not being rewarded. But I'm afraid that is one of the perils of two-driver races. Second of the Pro-Ams, Ivan Jacoma and Joel Camathias, taking second for the Porsche Centro Ticino team. And then the winners outright, but of course of Pro-Am, Bastian Bus and Jan Kasperlik celebrate honours here at the Nurburgring. And Allied Racing was the winning team in on the act as well. So silver next, and that was third in the class to the McLaren drivers, namely Phil Durr and Alexei Sijov.
Motorsport, dritter Platz, third place. Herzlichen Glückwunsch, Alexei Sijov und Phil Durr. Second place, zweiter
There you have the Russian and German drivers. Second went the way of Gael Castelli and Stefan Lemmer. A good effort that, up from 10th on the grid, taking second in class, third in the race, and again knocking on the door of that maiden victory. The car showing good pace. So congratulations to the two Toyota drivers. But then the winners of the Silver Cup, if not an outright winner, class win for Theo Nue and Valentin Asclot, who step forward now to receive their trophies. There they are, Valentin Asclot, a bit more content, I would have thought, about today's result than yesterday's, but well done to a pair of them. But of course, the best of all, Kasperlik and Bus as the outright winners. So then for third place, the drivers come forward through Parc Fermé to receive their trophies. And there you have the drivers, Johan van der Rum and Jean-Luc Behet, receiving their AM trophies. So very good effort by the two drivers to come through to score honours. The AM win, of course, going the way of Bob Herber, who's making a bit of a habit of doing this. That's a third victory of the season. And I fear that with the wrong trophies there. So those are the trophies they need. There is Bob Herber stepping forward. I think it's because we haven't got Gilles Vannelet and Nico Gomar yet. So there we have Bob Herber as the class winner. Ever so anonymous, doesn't he? Just almost plain white overalls, but Bob maximising his available track time this weekend, and even with that 10-second penalty, hangs on to the place. And there for his photograph to be taken is the driver of 89, Nico Gomar, third in class. There's no Gilles Vannelet to join him, so Nicolas Gomar takes the two trophies. Not quite sure where Gilles has gone to, but Nico is there. And Nico Gomar and Gilles Vannelet then take third in the class. So, the GT4 European Series here at the Nurburgring comes to a close, as there you have Johan van Rum and Jean-Luc Behetz, the drivers that were second with the correct trophies now in that AM class. The next stop for the championship is going to be Zandvoort, and we look forward to 2 more good races there. But from the Nurburgring, from Gemma Scott and from me, David Anderson, bye for now.